Did you ever wonder who really ran old Hollywood? The lights, the laughter, the legends, they say it was a man's world. But the truth? It was powered by women who refused to play by the rules. They wore tuxedos when the world demanded pearls. They wrote their own lines when studios tried to silence them. They didn't wait for permission. They took the spotlight. These women weren't just actresses. They were architects of power, pioneers of confidence, and rebels wrapped in satin and silver. Their words could stop a room. Their presence could change an era. So settle in, darling. We're pulling back the velvet curtain to reveal the boldest women of Hollywood's golden age, the ones who made glamour dangerous. Mae West, 1893-1980. If Hollywood ever had a queen of confidence, her name was Mae West, a woman who didn't just walk into a room, she rearranged it. Before Hollywood even knew what to do with her, Mae had already conquered Broadway with her own plays, stories so daring that the censors nearly fainted. But Mae didn't apologize. She simply smiled that slow, knowing smile and said, "I'm no angel, but I've been on the waiting list." Born in Brooklyn in 1893, she started on stage at just 5 years old, learning early that the world rewards those who dare to stand out. By the time Hollywood came calling in the 1930s, she wasn't looking for fame. She was looking for freedom. Did you know that her 1933 film, She Done Him Wrong, single-handedly saved Paramount Pictures from financial ruin during the Great Depression? One film and one unforgettable woman kept an empire afloat. That movie gave us a line still quoted nearly a century later. "Why don't you come up sometime and see me?" That wasn't just a flirtation. It was a declaration of power. Mae West wrote most of her own material, shaped her persona, and controlled her contracts at a time when few women in Hollywood could. She used humor as armor, wit as a weapon of charm, and presence as pure persuasion. When told to tone it down, she replied with her trademark sparkle. "When I'm good, I'm very good, but when I'm bad, I'm better." Mae West didn't break Hollywood's rules. She rewrote them in rhinestones and rhythm. She turned charm into currency and intelligence into allure. And long after the cameras stopped rolling, one truth remained. Mae West wasn't just a star. She was a one-woman revolution in sequins, the first to prove that confidence could be the most glamorous thing of all. Tallulah Bankhead, 1902-1968. If charisma had a sound, it would have been Tallulah Bankhead's voice. Smoky, rich, and unforgettable, like laughter echoing through a champagne glass at midnight. Born in Alabama in 1902, Tallulah was raised in a world that told young women to be seen and not heard. She did both, loudly. By the time she hit the stage, she was impossible to ignore. She once said, "If I had to live my life again, I'd make all the same mistakes, only sooner." That wasn't a confession, it was a philosophy. Did you know she first found fame not in Hollywood, but in London's West End? American producers thought she was too much for their audiences. London adored her. Within months, her name was glowing on theater marquees, proof that authenticity travels faster than approval. When she returned to Hollywood in the 1930s, she brought her signature fire with her. Her performances in Faithless and Alfred Hitchcock's Lifeboat showed off her rare ability to blend elegance with edge. She wasn't playing characters, she was channeling chaos into charm. Off-screen, Tallulah was a tornado of energy. She threw parties that became legendary, filled with laughter, cigars, and fearless conversation. She said what she wanted, how she wanted, when she wanted, and in doing so, she became the unofficial spirit of the Golden Age's rebellion. While others rehearsed their poise, Tallulah lived her truth. She didn't pretend to be perfect. She made imperfection magnetic. Directors called her difficult. Audiences called her unforgettable. When the world tried to box her in, she laughed, that deep, delicious laugh, and lit another cigarette. Tallulah Bankhead didn't follow the script. She was the script, witty, wild, and utterly original. And long after the lights went down, her voice still lingered in the air, a reminder that in old Hollywood, being loud wasn't the sin. It was the secret to immortality. Bette Davis, 1908-1989. If eyes could speak, Bette Davis wouldn't have needed a single line of dialogue. Hers could slice through silence, challenge authority, and turn a single glance into legend. Born in Massachusetts in 1908, Bette didn't fit the mold of the Hollywood ingenue. She wasn't soft, she wasn't submissive, she was real. When she arrived in Tinseltown, studio heads didn't know whether to fear her or follow her. They eventually did both. Her rise wasn't a fairy tale, it was a fight. Warner Brothers tried to typecast her as another pretty face, Bet refused. She fought for complex women, characters who were sharp, flawed, and painfully human, and she won. Did you know she took her studio to court just to earn the right to choose better roles? Imagine that, a young actress in the 1930s, standing up to an empire and walking away with respect. That was Bette Davis, uncompromising, unshakable, unstoppable. Her performances in Of Human Bondage, Jezebel, and All About Eve weren't just acting, they were announcements. You could feel her power in every pause, every glare, every carefully measured word. She wasn't playing a woman who wanted approval. She was playing with a woman who demanded recognition. Off-screen, she was just as fiery. She spoke her mind in an industry built on silence. Reporters couldn't handle her honesty. Audiences adored it. When asked why she didn't play nicer roles, she famously said, "I'd rather be strongly hated than weakly loved." She didn't just open doors for women in Hollywood, she broke them off their hinges. Bette Davis wasn't a star by luck or beauty. She was a star because she refused to blink. And even now, her shadow stretches across every strong female performance that followed. A reminder that the greatest power in Hollywood isn't perfection, it's presence. Marlene Dietrich, Me 1991-1992. Some stars burn brightly, others shimmer forever. Marlene Dietrich did both. Born in Berlin in 1901, she was part artist, part illusion. A woman who understood that mystery was the purest form of control. When she arrived in Hollywood, she didn't just step into the spotlight, she bent it around her. With that razor-sharp gaze and voice like velvet smoke, she transformed from a European actress to a global icon almost overnight. Her breakout came in The Blue Angel, 1930, where she turned the role of Lola Lola into an eternal archetype, the woman no one could quite understand, yet no one could look away from. When she crossed the Atlantic at the invitation of director Joseph von Sternberg, their collaborations, Morocco, Shanghai Express, The Scarlet Empress, redefined movie glamour itself. Did you know Marlene was one of the first Hollywood women to wear a tuxedo on screen and off it? At a time when fashion defined femininity, she made masculinity look more elegant than anyone imagined possible. Her style wasn't rebellion, it was refinement. Audiences gasped, critics whispered, Dietrich simply smiled. Behind that calm exterior, she was fearless. She performed for soldiers during World War II, rejected safe neutrality, and stood proudly for what she believed was right, all while wrapped in satin and self-possession. She once said, "Glamour is what I sell. It's my stock in trade." But what she really sold was freedom, the freedom to be everything at once, strong and soft, mysterious and transparent, dazzling and deeply human. Even decades later, her image lingers like perfume in the film, timeless, untouchable, unforgettable. Marlene Dietrich didn't chase fame. She crafted it, detail by detail, like a couture gown made of light. And when the credits rolled, she left the same way as she entered, perfectly lit, slightly distant, and entirely in control. Jean Harlow, 1911-1937. Before Marilyn, before Monroe was even a name, there was Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell, the woman who turned laughter into allure, mischief into magnetism, and screen presence into pure lightning. Born in Kansas City in 1911, Jean wasn't supposed to be a star. She stumbled into Hollywood almost by accident, visiting a friend on set, only to have a director spot her and decide she had something. He was right. Within a year, that something had turned into everything. Her breakout came in Howard Hughes's Hell's Angels, 1930, a film that launched both aviation dreams and cinematic obsession. With her platinum hair, mischievous grin, and a voice that carried confidence like melody, Jean became the face of pre-code Hollywood, the era before the censors closed the curtains. Did you know her trademark hair color inspired an actual cultural craze? Women across America were bleaching their hair to match hers, even when stylists warned it was too dangerous. That's how powerful her image became. In Red-Headed Woman, 1932, and Dinner at 8, 1933, she played the kind of women Hollywood wasn't ready for. Funny, quick, flirtatious, but always in charge. Jean didn't need permission to steal a scene. She just walked in and owned it. Behind that golden glow, though, she was pure heart. Colleagues adored her warmth, her humor, her refusal to take fame too seriously. Director George Cukor once said she had the timing of a comedian and the courage of a star. Her career was tragically short, gone by 26, but her legend never dimmed. Jean Harlow redefined femininity not through perfection, but through personality. She proved that glamour didn't have to whisper. It could laugh, sparkle, and still carry depth. Jean Harlow wasn't just Hollywood's first blonde icon. She was its first modern woman, bold, brilliant, and forever unforgettable. Carole Lombard, 1908-1942. In a town built on make-believe, Carole Lombard was the real thing, spontaneous, sharp, and utterly irresistible. Born Jane Alice Peters in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in 1908, she didn't walk into Hollywood looking for perfection. She walked in looking for fun and found herself rewriting the rules of comedy. Before Lombard, glamour meant poise and mystery. After her, it meant laughter. She had timing sharper than a film editor's scissors and wit that could stop a cocktail party cold. Directors adored her energy. Co-stars couldn't keep up. In 20th Century 1934, she went toe-to-toe with John Barrymore and stole the film. By the time she made My Man Godfrey, 1936, opposite her ex-husband William Powell, she was Hollywood's highest-paid comedian and its brightest light. Did you know Lombard insisted on doing her own slapstick? She dove into fountains, tripped over props, and threw herself into chaos with a smile that never missed a beat. No stunt woman, no hesitation, just total commitment to the moment. That's why audiences loved her. She made imperfection look divine. Off-screen, she was famously down to earth. She swore like a sailor, laughed like a best friend, and treated everyone, from producers to prop men, like family. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood, called her his equal. Together, they became the town's golden couple, real, radiant, unstoppable. When Hollywood glittered, Carole Lombard glowed. She wasn't polished, she was alive. Every role, every word, every burst of laughter reminded audiences that beauty and brains could dance together, and that comedy could be just as glamorous as drama. Carole Lombard's career ended far too soon, but her influence never faded. She taught Hollywood's leading ladies that you didn't have to whisper to be elegant. Sometimes, elegance came with a laugh. She was Quicksilver wrapped in silk, the woman who made laughter the most beautiful thing on screen. Barbara Stanwyck, 1907-1990. If Hollywood had a heartbeat made of grit and grace, it would sound like Barbara Stanwyck. Born Ruby Stevens in Brooklyn in 1907, she climbed to stardom without the safety net of privilege or luck, just raw talent and unstoppable willpower. She started as a chorus girl, orphaned young, surviving on instinct and ambition. By the time she hit the screen, she wasn't pretending to be tough. She was tough. And that's what made her unforgettable. Barbara didn't play damsels. She played doers, women who worked, fought, loved, and lived by their own rules. In films like Babyface, 1933, Stella Dallas, 1937, and the immortal Double Indemnity, 1944, she proved that strength and vulnerability weren't opposites. They were two sides of the same dazzling coin. Did you know that she was one of the first actresses to earn $1 million in her career without ever demanding it? Her work spoke louder than contracts. Directors called her one-take Stanwyck because she nailed every scene without rehearsal. That wasn't luck. That was preparation and professionalism polished into art. Off-screen, she was no diva. She treated the crew with the same respect as the stars, showing up early, ready, and always giving more than the camera required. In a world obsessed with images, Barbara built her power on substance. She once said, "Egotism, usually just a case of mistaken identity. That's pure Stanwyck, confident without vanity, proud without pretense." When the golden age glittered too brightly, she stayed grounded, a quiet storm of authenticity. Barbara Stanwyck didn't need scandal or spectacle. Her presence was her power. Her honesty was her glamour. And when you watch her on screen today, the eyes, the poise, the perfect pause before a devastating line, you realize she didn't just play strong women. She taught Hollywood what strength it looked like. Katharine Hepburn, 1907-2003. In a world of studio-made perfection, Katharine Hepburn walked in like a gust of fresh New England air, brisk, brilliant, and entirely her own. Born in Connecticut in 1907, she grew up in a house that valued independence over etiquette. That spirit never left her. When she arrived in Hollywood, she wasn't trying to fit in. She was trying to stand out. Tall, athletic, sharp-tongued, and utterly fearless, Hepburn didn't glide through the golden age. She stormed through it. In an era when actresses were told to smile sweetly, she wore trousers, spoke her mind, and refused to play anyone's version of feminine but her own. Did you know she once arrived at RKO Pictures wearing slacks? And when the studio tried to confiscate them, she walked out, returned in her underwear, and told them they could keep the pants? That's Katharine Hepburn in a single scene. Bold, funny, and absolutely untouchable. Her early hits like Morning Glory, 1933, and Bringing Up Baby, 1938, showcased her dazzling mix of intelligence and mischief. But it was the Philadelphia Story, 1940, that cemented her as royalty, not because she played a goddess, but because she played a woman with fire and flaws in perfect balance. Off-screen, she lived as she pleased. She loved nature, privacy, and intellectual challenge more than fame. She never bent to gossip or trends, and she never begged for approval. Not from studios, not from critics, not from anyone. She once said, "If you obey all the rules, you miss all the fun." And that wasn't rebellion for the sake of shock. It was conviction for the sake of truth. Katharine Hepburn didn't just break Hollywood's mold. She shattered it and built a new one in her own image. 4 Oscars, countless legends, and one undeniable legacy later, her message still rings clear. Be yourself, even if the whole world isn't ready for it. Joan Crawford, 1904-1977. In Hollywood's golden glow, few names burned brighter or harder than Joan Crawford. Born Lucille Fay LeSueur in San Antonio, Texas, she didn't come to Hollywood with privilege. She came with hunger, pure, diamond-sharp ambition. She started as a chorus girl, danced her way into MGM, and clawed her way to the top, not through scandal or shortcuts, but through sheer willpower. Crawford didn't play characters, she embodied them. Every frame of her films, from Grand Hotel, 1932, to Mildred Pierce, 1945, radiated that unmistakable energy, the tension between control and chaos, grace and grit. In Mildred Pierce, she wasn't just acting, she was confessing. A self-made woman plays a self-made woman, earning an Oscar for a role that mirrored her own relentless climb. Did you know she personally answered fan letters, sometimes hundreds a day, just to stay connected with the people who built her legend? She never took fame for granted. She managed it like a business, polished to perfection. Her homes gleamed, her wardrobe sparkled, her posture was a masterclass in discipline. Behind every gesture, there was purpose. Joan Crawford was often described as intense, but that word barely scratches the surface. She was electricity in human form, the kind that could light up a set or shatter a reputation with a glance. Yet those who knew her best said she was deeply kind, fiercely loyal, and endlessly professional. Off camera, she faced challenges that would have crushed others, yet she never let the world see her crack. To her, the show wasn't just business, it was identity. Crawford once said, "I never wanted to be famous, I just wanted to be great." And she was. Great in her craft, great in her control, and great in her contradictions. Joan Crawford didn't just survive Hollywood's golden age, she defined it. She proved that glamour wasn't about softness or surrender. It was about standing tall under the spotlight, even when it burned. Ava Gardner, 1922-1990. There are stars, and then there's Ava Gardner. She didn't just walk into a room. She shifted its gravity. Cameras adored her, directors chased her, and audiences could never quite look away. But here's the secret. Ava Gardner never tried to be a legend. She just was. Born in Grabtown, North Carolina, in 1922, she was the youngest of 7 children, a small-town girl with a face that seemed painted in moonlight. When her photograph landed on a studio desk, MGM executives thought it was a prank. No one could look that cinematic without lighting. But the photo was real. So was Ava. She arrived in Hollywood like a spark in a world of glitter, untrained, unpolished, and utterly magnetic. Her breakout came in The Killers, 1946, where she turned the screen into a slow burn of danger and allure. After that, Hollywood had found its final goddess. Did you know she was so naturally striking that makeup artists often said, "Our job is just to stay out of the way"? That was Ava. Effortless beauty with a wild heart. But beneath the glamour, there was something raw, real, and untamed. Ava loved deeply, lived freely, and refused to play the studio's version of perfection. She said what she thought, laughed too loudly, and wore honesty like perfume. She was a woman who knew her worth, and never apologized for it. Off-screen, she kept her humor sharp and her soul open. She called herself a plain country girl who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But even though she knew, there was nothing plain about Ava Gardner. She was the last shimmer of the golden age, the bridge between old Hollywood mystery and modern independence. Ava Gardner didn't just play enchantment, she was enchantment. A reminder that real stars don't need to sparkle. They just burn. Rita Hayworth, 1918-1987. When the lights dimmed and the projector flickered to life, Rita Hayworth didn't just appear on screen, she glowed. Born Margarita Carmen Cancino in Brooklyn in 1918, she was Hollywood's dream made flesh, grace, rhythm, and mystery wrapped in red satin and celluloid shimmer. But here's the twist. The woman the world adored wasn't quite the woman she was. The studios reinvented her. They dyed her hair, reshaped her look, and even altered her name. The transformation of Margarita Cancino into Rita Hayworth became one of the most famous makeovers in movie history. And from that transformation, a legend was born. In CoverGirl, 1944, and Gilda, 1946, she didn't just captivate audiences, she stopped time. Who could forget that moment in Gilda when she flipped her hair and smiled like she knew the whole world was watching? That single frame became the symbol of post-war Hollywood glamour, daring, playful, and utterly unforgettable. Did you know that Gilda was so powerful, her image was painted on the side of World War II planes? That's how iconic she became, a face that meant confidence, hope, and allure to millions. But behind the glow, Rita was a quiet soul. She once said, "Men go to bed with Gilda and wake up with me." It wasn't bitterness, it was truth. She longed to be seen not as a fantasy, but as a woman, thoughtful, gentle, and real. Off-screen, she loved music, horses, and peace more than parties. Her warmth drew people in. Her vulnerability kept her human. She carried herself with a calm that made the noise of fame seem small. Rita Hayworth didn't just define an era, she embodied it. Her story is Hollywood itself, beauty shaped by light, mystery born from reinvention, and truth hidden just beyond the frame. She was the love goddess, but also something more. She was a woman who taught the world that even icons have hearts that beat quietly, behind the curtain of fame. And there you have it. The women who turned Hollywood into something far more than dreams of celluloid. They were bold, brilliant, and brave, each one a reminder that behind every dazzling close-up was a mind sharper than the camera's focus. From Jean Harlow's electric charm to Ava Gardner's wild grace, from Stanwyck's steel to Hepburn's fire, these weren't just actresses, they were architects of allure. Each mansion, each movie, each whispered legend still flickers somewhere between memory and myth. Because that's the secret of the golden age. It never really ended. It just moved from the silver screen to our imaginations. So, if you felt that sparkle, that heartbeat of old Hollywood, don't just fade to black.